Today marks one of the most important days on the channel in this WSOP for summer. As you guys know, I said that's super difficult task of making $25,000 in 7 weeks. So far, this is what we're currently at. We are plus 1,400 or 1,500. Looking to do a little better. Today is the biggest bind we've played thus far, and I think it's going to be the biggest until the main event most likely. And I've got to bring my A game. I've got to be focused, and I promise you guys, I definitely am. Heading over, it's a single day event, which I love, and it's going to be hosted at the Aria. It's the BetMGM Classic, ladies and gentlemen. This is kind of a big deal, you know, some prestige there, some high money. They're actually guaranteeing $500,000 in the prize pool, and I promise you guys, that number is going to quickly balloon to nearly $1 million for a single day event. Yeah, sign me up.
That montage was pretty cool, I know. But we've got some hands to go over, so let's get right into this first one. Under the gun goes ahead and makes a raise. Next to act, then 3 bets. With the action folding over to me, I can't believe it. I'm next to act, and we have pocket kings. We've late registered this tournament just a few hours into the day, and we already have a massive hand. A little bit to go over here, but I think the best option clearly is to 4-bet. So I make it 11,000 to go. Only the +1 player calls. We're going off to a flop here that's pretty good. 8-7 deuce rainbow. Action checks to me, and I go ahead and make a c-bet for a small amount of 8,000. As we've said, not many turn cards we're going to be afraid of outside of an ace. Everything else is honestly still pretty good. All that to be considered, we still have to bet something to deny those random ace highs, and more importantly, get value from those middling pairs. Our opponent is deep in the tank before eventually deciding on a fold. Unfortunate that we couldn't get any more value, but to start off with pocket Kirons, that's a sign of good things to come. Considering this is a tournament, I'm going to be playing a lot of pots, sometimes in late position when I'm trying to steal, and sometimes when I'm the chip leader, I'm going to be playing a little bit aggressive. In this next hand, about 30 minutes have passed by. I'm in early position, and I look down at king-queen suited. I raise to 1,400, and then middle position 3-bets to 4.2k. Action folds back to me, and this is an easy call. We can 4-bet sometimes, but with a hand like king-queen suited, I'd rather call, and maybe king-queen offsuit 4-betting's a little better, but that's neither here nor there. I'll leave that to the Europeans to decide. Heads up to a flop where it's all right. It's ace high. We have a gutter ball to the nut straight, as well as the backdoor nut flush draw. I check call a small continuation bet, and the turn card is a 5 of clubs. This does bring a backdoor flush, but not the one I was looking for. I decide to check it to my opponent, and he quickly checks it back. The river card is now a 6 of hearts, and I take my time here. This seems like a clear-cut spot for me to go to a bluff after my opponent checks the turn. It looks like he's a little bit on the weaker side, but I don't know. Something inside of me makes me feel like my opponent's either trapping, and then it seems like my suspicions are confirmed when I pick up on a live tell. Usually what people do when they're weak is they feint strength by grabbing their chips, pretending to move them forward. It's a live tell that I think we've all encountered. This time it's quite the opposite. My opponent, he's almost stoic and damn near waiting for me to throw money in the middle. All that being said, I decide against my better judgment and what I think the right thing to do most often is, and I just check it over to my opponent to give up. He pretty quickly puts together 8,500 chips. We can't fold quick enough, and unfortunately, we're bleeding and we lose that pot. I realize I lost that last hand, but I promise you I've never been more focused at a poker table in my life. There's so much riding on these tournaments, and every time I buy in bigger, I really feel like I've got to push myself to be more engaged and to provide better poker for myself and for all of you guys watching. So do me a favor and click that like button down below. This next hand is a good example of a lot of different things, but without spoiling it, it's level 7 now, 1k big blind, and I'm in early position, and I look down at pocket Kirons once again. We make it 2.2k, early position 2, then 3 bets to 6k. Action folds over to me, and I think we can go a couple of different ways, but the clear-cut answer to me is to 4-bet. I don't like slow playing big hands, and I realize we are both in early position, which means we should both be pretty strong, and I'd be kind of turning my hand face up. But in reality, these games are still soft enough, and these opponents are still bluffy enough for me to go for a 4-bet here and let them hang themselves, either 5-bet super weak or get to a flop and milk them for all they're worth. I make it 17,000 chips to go. Opponent tanks for quite some time before once again making the correct laydown. It's all right. We like taking pots down, and that's a good sign. A few hands go by when I look down at ace 4 of diamonds in middle position and raise to 2.7k. Only the small blind comes along and we're heads up to a very tasty flop. We flop ourselves a couple of backdoor draws as well as a front door nut flush draw. Action checks to me, and this is a good spot for me to check it back. We have ace high, which will be good here some of the times, and moreover, I really enjoy trapping hands like this. It's really easy for my opponent to check raise a board like this. The turn card is a queen of clubs. When the action checks to me now, I think we can throw in a little bit of a delayed c-bet. We want to get all of those junk hands that have random equity against us to fold. And better yet, if he calls and we get there on the river, we've at least built the size of the pot. I make it 2,500 and he calls pretty quickly. River card is the best card in the deck. It's the 9 of diamonds. Yeah, we don't technically have the absolute nuts. Our opponent leads for a massive size of 12,000 chips, but I can't be scared. With the effective nuts here, I've got to go for it. I've got to get my opponent to call with worse, and when that's the case, you can't make it too big. He's already made a massive bet on the river. I make it 25k, looking to milk him for all he's worth. He is deep into the tank. He is clearly in pain, but after a massive tank, he makes a call, and we show our hand, and clearly we are good. Nice hand for us, bringing us to nearly 6 figures. This is exactly what we needed in this tournament. Things are going in the right direction. Honestly, a bunch of time has passed since we've had a playable hand, and eventually boredom has caught up to me. Middle position raises to 4,500 chips, action folds to me in the big blind, and with Jack 7 off, I don't recommend defending here all that often unless you consider yourself to be a super strong player post-flop. I am not that very often, but hey, I'm bored. We're pretty tight at this point, so I go ahead and make a bit of a loose call. Boom. Yeah, rewarded. Bottom 2 pair. That's how we roll. I check it over to my opponent with this monster, and he decides to make a bet of 3,500. Small continuation bet. He could be doing this with a plethora of hands. I think raising is a good idea, but considering this board texture is a rainbow one, there's a couple of random gutter balls he'll have, but outside of that, I'm not too worried. Let's let him catch up a little bit, maybe get excited about his hand, or better yet, let's just underrepresent our hand and just make the call. Turn comes out a queen. Once again, I check it over to my opponent, and once again, he bets out for 12,000. He now leaves himself 24,000 behind. It's a little sketchy now. Hands like King 10 obviously get there and they're better. Hands like Ace Queen now improve, Queen Jack improve. But outside of those hands, which I guess there are a pretty decent amount of them, there's a bunch of random Ace X's that'll still consider going for it or calling my all in if I decide to do so. So I decide to go all in for the remaining 24,000 chips in his stack. I don't know if I love this, to be honest. The goal when raising with a value hand is to get called by a hand that is less valuable than yours. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's a little tough to say. Would he call with a hand like Ace King? I think almost certainly he would have to. Would he call with a hand like, Ace 10? That's where things get a little, sketchy. And outside of that, every one of those other hands beat us. But seems like it's not going to matter too much. Our opponent tanks forever, which usually means we're good, and eventually he decides to fold. So good folds from him. I guess he probably had one of those Ace X's we were talking about. I guess we could have just called and either let him hang himself on the river if he was bluffing or semi-bluffing, or I don't know, maybe check raise a flop. I'll let you guys decide though. Let me know in the comment section down below how you would have played this hand. By this point, you guys can clearly see some of the videos you've seen today of the hands have been in vertical form. And no, it's not because I forgot to flip my phone around. It's actually because we've been making a bunch of content on our short form media. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to follow us on Close to Broke on Instagram. We post some more personal stuff there. You can know a little bit where I'm at more often in the world. We're going to be doing a lot of traveling and a bunch of giveaways in the future. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to follow me over on Instagram. You can also follow me on Twitter. I post some more personal funny stuff on there. But anyways, this next hand is a fun one. Level 10, so we're on the same level. I'm in the hijack with pocket sixes, and I'm making 4,500 to go. Action folds to the small blind, who goes all in for 27,500 chips. That's good for nearly 14 big blinds. All that being said, I've got 106,000 in front of me, a ton of chips to play with. You've got to call an all in when it's for 13.5 big blinds or whatever it is with pocket sixes. I make the call pretty quickly, and our opponent shows King 7. What the He's clearly a gambler and wants to get lucky, and he clearly does. He flops us damn near dead. Disgusting flop for us. Maybe he's a cheater like the team he roots for, the Astros. I don't even know. He's completely decked out in Astros gears. Maybe he heard somebody banging on trash cans behind me, letting him know that there was clearly going to be a king and a 7 on this flop. I don't even know. I don't even know where to start. That was bad. We get destroyed in that hand. His bad hand beats my medium hand. All of that ends the same. We have 78,000 chips now in our stack. Not to worry yet. Still around 40 big blinds. And to this point, I feel pretty confident in our play. Action folds over to me. I'm begging for a walk, but that is not to come. The small blind goes ahead limp, so I go ahead and check it back. Flop comes, and I flop a fucking straight. Like, what? What am I even going to do? This hand's too good. He checks to me. I bet the minimum amount of 2,000 and he calls. The turn now is a very good one. It's a 3, bringing a full rainbow. And better yet, now any 5 makes a straight. I hope I've coolered him, especially so when he checks. I bet 4K and he raises to 15K. Holy shit, this guy wants to blast off to me. I'm not going to let him do anything besides exactly that. So I'm going to play this sneaky. I'm going to play it trappy. And I'm going to go ahead and check it back to him. It's a full rainbow board. There's nothing I can be scared of. So I just call. We're going to river card. Then out comes the ace of spades. It's the brick of all bricks. Beautiful card for us. He checks and I bomb for 35,000 chips. I'm making it look like a bluff. There's nothing I want more than this guy to talk himself into a call with a really terrible hand. But he ends up folding. Clearly, he didn't even have a 5. It seems like he was either going for a big bluff or just thought a random 2 pair like, I don't know, 6-4 or 7-6 or something like that was good on the turn. And my bet was a little too greedy on the river, but granted, I'm not really targeting 2 pairs. When he raises the turn, I think he clearly has like a 6-5, so a 4-liner or 5-liner now. I don't know, but we take that pot down, and I love that. Look, I almost never toot my own horn when it comes to this poker vlog thing. I am self-deprecating. I think I show some humility and almost at my own fault because it's fun to make fun of the poor play that I make. But let me tell you, I have never been more proud of a play than this one right here. Action folds over to the button who raises with a huge stack, and I'm in the small blind with ace king. Easy spot for us to 3-bet every day of the week, all day, no problem, but no, the big blind has been unbelievably aggro in any spot we've been able to give him the opportunity to do so. The last thing I want to do is 3-bet and let him get through with a shitty hand that he was considering making a move with. So I do the unthinkable and I just call here with ace king. I don't know, maybe some people are used to playing like this, but for me, this is like way out of the ballpark of weirdness, out of position. A hand as strong as ace king, I just think 3-betting makes the most sense. But in this case, because we're playing exploitatively, because guy in the big blind is an absolute maniac, I think it's best for me to just, pretend like we got something. Anyways, it folds to him, or it doesn't fold to him, I just call, and he jams 60,000 chips. That's well over 20 big blinds. That is an absolute gigapunt if I've ever seen one. Button tanks for freaking ever and then folds. I snap call. And I show ace king and I'm like giddy. I always think about doing shit and it doesn't pan out. And finally I did it and then he did that. And then I just get to call. Flop is king high. So it wouldn't have mattered. Obviously if I lost, I would have still sucked. He has pocket deuces, king high flop. We hold on the run out and a massive pot. Over half of my chips were in the middle and I didn't even realize it. Huge one for us. Really happy with the way we played it. This is good poker. Let's just continue doing this. At this point, we are in a very healthy stack. Massive one, to be fair, probably one of the biggest in the room. Middle position jams with 31,500 chips, good for nearly 13 or 14 big blinds. I am in an interesting situation when I look down at ace 10 offsuit. Can fold sometimes, but I think with a hand as strong as this, we're going to be ahead of what our opponent's range should effectively look like. So I go ahead and make the call, just hoping no one calls behind me or wakes up with a monster, and no one does. He shows pocket deuces, so once again, we're looking to fade deuces and catch some aces, and it's just that when the flop is ace 7-7. Turn is a 5, river is a 6. Once again, another all-in pot going my way. Call me the freaking Punisher, because I've come here to take souls today. 215,000 chips in front of me, and I'm not stopping for nothing. I told my mom I'd win 25K, and this is exactly the tournament that I plan on just winning all of it. I'm in early position with pocket fucking queens, dude. I'm running as hot as the goddamn sun, and nothing is gonna come between me and that trophy. 6,000 to go, my good sir. Button 3 bets to 14,000 off of an 80,000 chip stack. Action folds over to me now, and considering he's got somewhere around 25 big blinds, it's a no-brainer for me. I'm gonna go all freaking in. Pocket queens is just way too damn good to do anything but that. He instantly calls and shows ace king. I feel good. Even after I see a king on the window, I feel so good. But when a king comes on the window, I'm not fucking worried because the queen is right behind it. What did you think this was? This is a Karen Invitational. King, queen, 3 on the flop. The 4 renders him soulless. And the deuce of hearts is inconsequential. Ladies and gentlemen, 300,000 chips. And we're chip leading this damn thing. Coming off of the break and that unbelievable run of hands, I'm on an absolute super high. We've flopped a bunch of pairs, we've made a couple of big hands, and just like that, we are chip leading a tournament that has over $800,000 in the prize pool. There was ever a tournament to win, it's this one. Freaking lit right now, bro. Okay, back to the regularly scheduled program. We've got some poker to play. I look down at a very serious situation. Middle position, massive stack. He's actually one of the few people that has me covered now since some time has passed. We're at a new table, making some new friends. He makes it 8,000 to go. Middle position just jams his 13 big blinds, 53,000 chips. And then I'm in the blinds with ace king. Well, I have not come here to fold under any circumstance, so I'm going to go ahead and 4-bet to 100,000 chips. Middle position folds. We're going heads up in this over 125k pot. Ace king, and I've got my opponent absolutely dominatrix. The flop is irrelevant. The turn comes a king, but the river's a 6 of hearts. No! Oh my goodness. I don't even see it right away, but my opponent has made a flush. My heart is pain. I can't believe it. I mean, I've run so hot. Maybe it's just time that things equal themselves out. A massive, massive 6-figure pot. That's one. Those hurt. They really do. But we've got to regroup. We've got to lock in. Let's get to the next hand. I'm still heartbroken. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I'm frustrated. But you can't let small hands like that in the grand scheme of things impact the rest of the day. I'm trying to get my wits about me, and I'm trying to play some damn good poker. Sitting on 44 big blinds, 220,000 chips, I'm in the hijack with pocket jacks. Pocket jiggities, if there was ever a hand I don't know how to play as much as this one, just shoot me because it's not true. I make it 10,000 chips to go. The cutoff who has slightly less chips to me, I'd say honestly half my stack or something, I don't even know. It's like 140,000 chips. He makes it 26,000 to go. Action folds back to me, and I do consider just 4-bet jamming, but let's see a flop. Let's either flop a set or make sure there's no ace or king. Let's just not be an idiot. 4-betting jack seems like a disaster, so I go ahead and just make the call. Over 60,000 chips in the middle, and the flop is a pretty good one. We still have an overpair that's now turned into ghetto 2 pairs, what I call it, but either way, I check to my opponent to continue playing in flow, and he makes it 17,000 chips to go. He's got himself around 90 to 100,000 in his stack left. Does he have aces, kings, or queens? Sure, he can. Does he have ace, king? Yeah, I think so as well. But in reality, I just go ahead and go all in. I don't love this because, yeah, sometimes you'll have pocket tens and sometimes he calls, but outside of that, I don't know what I'm trying to get value from here. And like we talked about earlier, when you have a value hand and you go all in, you want to get called by a less valuable hand. This is a clear spot where I can genuinely only think of 1, maybe 2 hands that can call off here. Yeah, we do have him covered, so there is that saving grace where, you know, if he calls and we lose, we still have chips to make the money, but I don't love it. Things are obviously pouring over from the last hand, and this is clearly what I feel like is a poor decision. My opponent tanks for longer than I've talked to you guys about this hand. It goes on for fucking ever, but he ends up making the fold. I like to think he probably had a hand like 10s or 9s, and when they tank fold those hands, my jam, in all fairness to myself and to you, if I'm being honest, is a bad one.
All right, this next hand, I wasn't able to get on film, but it's really important for the story and understanding what the hell happens in the session. So let's go over it quickly. I look down at ace 10 of hearts, I raise, and we get 2 callers. The flop comes out giving me top pair on a pretty wet and coordinated board texture. The big blind thinks about betting. He does that clear fake out where he doesn't have a great hand, but he's pretending
to have a good hand so he gets a free check. I'm not buying any of it. I throw out a c-bet. Both players do end up making the call though. So we're 3 ways to a turn card that doesn't change too much. It's a 5 of spades. Backdoor flush is not presented. Ace 5 now beats us, but outside of that, not really much to worry about. Action is checked to me, and now I've got a bit of a decision. My hand is good enough to go for value, I think, again, against random holdings, but clearly not good enough to withstand any other action. I go in between a couple of spots. I think the best option is to check here, but I make a pretty sizable bet. I make it 22,000 to go, and then the in position player does not something I was totally expecting and goes all in for 75,000 chips. The blind player goes out of the way by making the fold, and now the action's on me. Clearly a spot to fold. We're almost never good here. A bunch of 2 pairs, a bunch of slightly better hands, or out-pipped hands, I should say. So we should fold. But in the game, I just thought my opponent can still have a hand like King Jack or King 10 of spades. You know, Gutterball picked up a flush draw. Maybe he has like Ace X of spades or some kind of random hand. I don't even know if that's even possible, but you get what I'm saying. In the game, I just made up hands that I think my opponent can have that are better, or I beat that are going for value as a semi-bluff, but I just don't think this is the type of opponent demographic I'm going for that I think is bluffing. But I ended up making the call in game, and I hated it, especially so when my opponent flips over Ace Jack. So I don't even know if he's bluffing. Does he think I'm bluffing? I don't even know. I don't understand the jam. And I definitely, God knows, does not. I don't understand what the fuck I was doing by calling there. But anyways, the river card is a brick. Super frustrated with myself. I just know better, and that's a clear example of winner's tilt and things. Just it's a frustrating one. And it's also a massive loss to the stack. But anyways, we're going to battle. We'll figure it out. Frustrating. Especially when there's self-inflicted wounds. It's like, dude, you know better. What the fuck? The money bubble is looming, and clearly that last hand, it was a mistake, it was a bad one, I don't even know. I don't know if I'm still reeling from the fact that I got destroyed in that ace-king hand, or maybe I'm unlucky, or maybe I'm playing with winner's tilt. I don't fucking know. But in this next hand, things are going to be much easier, because when our opponent goes ahead and raises to 17,000 chips and I defend the big blind with ace-3 offsuit, we make the absolute stone cold second nuts, the coconuts, or the medium nuts, whatever Will Kasuf would call it. We flop ourselves a stone cold wheel. And it's perfect timing because the wheels are falling off this goddamn bus, so we can just throw this right on here and get things back in order. Action checks to our opponent and he checks it through. Okay, that's chill. 10 of spades on the turn. I've got to do my own bidding here. I make it 22,000 to go, and my opponent pretty quickly makes a call. The river now comes a jack of diamonds. Not much to worry about. With how much money is in the middle, I think we can go a couple of ways. Going all in is kind of the worst option of the lot here, as it's just way over the size of the pot. But, you know, it's not the worst idea I've ever had. I think betting somewhere in the neighborhood of half the size of the pot, anywhere from 30 to 50,000, probably gets looked up by a middling pair. Maybe he has a hand like pocket sevens, or maybe he hit that 10. He has like ace 10 or something. I don't know. But betting something along those lines would likely get me paid off. You know what's not going to probably get me paid off? Going all in, but that's what the fuck I decided to go do. Yeah, I don't know why. Preposterous, but here we are. Doing the weird stuff, going all in. But you know what? I like it. I'm aggressive. I'm going to do this with bluffs sometimes, and I just hope my opponent thinks that. Because it doesn't matter if I actually do it. He's got to think that so he can call off here pretty light. Yeah, he's not going to do that. He thinks about it for some time, though, to give myself some credit. It was a reasonable bet in that sense, but he folds, and we are left here with a win, but one clearly where we left tons of money on the table. I don't know. We're like 15 spots away from making the money. The chip leaders are getting whiff of the fact that people are now trying to squeak into the money. But I pick up a really playable hand. Pocket nines with 200,000 chips in front of me, a little more than 20 big blinds. I decided to raise here. I don't know if you're actually supposed to. I mean, I don't know. ICM, all this shit is just way out of my league. I raise, and then the small blind, huge stack, just 3 bets to 45K. I hate this, but I know this much. Going all in here would be a disaster. I have more than enough chips to just get into the money, and throwing away the min cash of, well, I don't even know what it is, like $2,300 would be just an absolute disaster. Considering we got in here on a satellite, everything is damn near profit. So I go ahead and just make the fold. I don't love it. I hate doing stuff like this. I hate playing to get into the money, but It's important in events like this. I don't want to have played for 12 hours and leave home empty-handed and try to explain that to my family that, you know, I spent 14 hours to make $0 to actually lose money. That, you know what I mean? That's an uncomfortable conversation. I don't want to do that. Let's make some money. Let's get into the money. Let's fold. Yeah. Oh, we folded pocket 9s, and now we've improved just a little to pocket 10s. I raised to 16,000. Hopefully this time's a little easier, and the big blind does come along here by way of a call, which is much better than getting jammed on in my face. The flop comes out 6-4-3 with 2 clubs and a diamond. Our opponent donk leads for 12,000. I don't love it. Once again, he has about 120,000 chips remaining, and I do have him covered. So even if I decide to go all in and he calls and he is beating us, I can almost guarantee we'll squeak into the money, as we're just a few spots out of it, even with the short stack that I'd eventually have. All that being said, I do think, honestly, that my opponent can call off with a bunch of worse hands. Yeah, he could have flopped a straight with 7-5, but outside of that, there's a bunch of hands that have a ton of value, or, you know, that have a ton of equity, I should say, that I can still get value from. You know, if he has a pair and a flush draw, if he has a pair and a straight draw, if he just has a strong middling pair and just doesn't want to get rid of it, like 7s or 8s or something like that, I just can clearly get value from those hands. So I go all in here. I realize it's a massive amount of the pot. I don't know if this is perfect, but I know for a fact that in my live game, understanding what's going on, the situation around me, I just want to get the money in the middle. I don't want to see any turn cards that scare off action or I can end up folding on if he bluffs me. Let's play some cards. I got pocket 10, sir. If you're going to play with me, you're going to have to make the call for all your chips. He goes into the tank for a very freaking long time, like too long. I almost get bored. I nearly call the clock on him, but he's honestly such a cool guy. If there was ever a guy not to call the clock on, is this guy. He was super chill. But anyways, he tanks forever and makes a fold. I mean, that's not bad. I know for a fact he had some form of equity, and anytime you can get people to fold equity, it's a damn, you know, it's a good thing. We guarantee ourselves a spot in the money by this point now by making that move, and that's exactly what happens, because we make the money just a few hands after. That's a really good sign for things to come. Hopefully we can use this as a catalyst to end up making the final table.
I'd like to congratulate you all. Good job, everyone. You made all the money. Now, you are looking at the minute. Please stay at the table.
The blinds have gone around and passed me like 2 different times. Quite the disaster. Not great, not good, but we're sitting here with 140,000 chips at 12k big blind. One thing I like doing when I'm on this like medium to low stack is to raise with hands that I don't really want to commit my full stack with. Ace-6 of spades is a great example of that. I raised to 25,000 chips. The big blind comes along and the flop is jack 10-4 with 1 spade. So we have a couple of backdoor draws and I guess range advantage if that counts for anything. Opponent checks to me and I want to down bet here to 16,000 for a couple of reasons. The most important one being if he has random equity. Let's say he has a hand like 7-8, right? Super random hand that doesn't really want to continue, or let's say like, I don't know, 6-8. Any random 2 cards that haven't connected with his board in a smashing fashion are just going to fold when I throw any chips in the middle. So it doesn't matter if I make it 16 or 25k. Pocket, you know, hands that make a pair, a 10-ish, they're going to call anyways. So let's just make a c-bet here. Small one is try to buy the pot, and luckily for us, he folds pretty quickly. So we've bought ourselves a pot, bought ourselves a few rounds of blinds, and we'll take that at this point in the tournament. Speaking of blinds, action folds to me and I'm in the small blind. We look down at King Jack offsuit, and this is clearly a good spot for us to go all in. With 180,000 in front of me, 12,000 being the big blind, you don't got to be a rocket scientist to see I'm getting pretty short on chips. Get this one through and steal these blinds in the middle, that'd be wonderful. If we get called and win, we'd have a massive stack. If we get called, there's still a chance we can still get called by worse. All of those things means this is a clear spot for us to go all in. Our opponent is deep into the tank. Honestly, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Just call. Probably he has like queen jack suited, or maybe he has king 10 suited. There's a bunch of hands that we can still get called by. Maybe he has 6s or 7s and just doesn't want to commit that much in the middle. I don't know. But you know what isn't great? When he tank calls with king queen. Holy shit, that's really bad. Yeah. Looking for a jack, but with the flop comes out ace-6-6. So it presents a new opportunity, that is the chop opportunity. Anytime a chop is available, I'm going to be very thankful to take just that. Any ace that comes out would be helpful, but when the turn is the 5 of clubs, it is not any of that. Granted, we can still chop the pot if a 5 comes on the river. We can still win the pot if the river is a jack. We can still chop it if the river's an ace. Everything comes down to this. We've made the money, we've made a small jump, but we're looking to make a deeper run. Dealer, one fucking time. Jack, please.
Nice hand. Unfortunately, our time in the tournament has come to an end. A big thank you for everyone for sweating along and the good vibes. This is just, I feel like a tip of the iceberg. The rest of the series is just getting started. We still have an entire month left of this thing, so in between playing here at the Aria and at the World Series of Poker, I think there's a lot more in store for us. Like I said, this feels like just the beginning. I feel like most years I kind of like sputter out around this time, like a couple of weeks in. And honestly, I feel like I'm barely catching my wind. So definitely a good vibe. Definitely feel pretty strong. And hopefully, like I said, this is a sign of more to come. A couple of cashes. I think that brings our total for the series. We actually satellited into this tournament for $160. So ended up cashing for $2,500 or something like that. So that's huge. Brings our total overall for the series. I think we're now up $3,500 or something like that. You guys will know the math. But again, thank you guys for the sweats. Still got 22,000 more to go. We got it though. Still a month left. Let's go.